Happy Monday, and welcome into another edition of 3 Point Stance presented by MTN Dew. I am Meghan Triplett. That is John Roser, and let's get straight to it because we have a lot to talk about. And let's first start in the NFL. You got your Niners shirt on. They play tonight. But Sunday, it was a lot of confusion going on. There was a lot of mayhem, whether it was the Giants winning, Philly and their quarterback situation, and the Jets loss. Just give me your first take on what all the action that happened on Sunday.
Well, so the New York Jets and Raiders game actually ended up, you're sitting there, what, a Jets game is going to be entertaining. It actually ended up being like the most entertaining game probably of the entire day, beginning to end. And you had scoring, you had big plays both ways. And, the end of the game, the play happens. Henry Ruggs gets loose after he had a rough game. Had a ball tip off his hands that was that ended up being an interception. Had also a big third down fumble that the Jets recovered. So he made amends for that with that catch. Now the Jets, some of their players in the secondary, they called out their defensive coordinator Greg Williams after the game on, look, we're players and we still have to execute, but the coach is like, you got to put us in a better position than that. And how you don't have a safety over the top right there, how you leave Henry Ruggs one-on-one on the outside when this dude just ran a 4.240 at the NFL Draft Combine last year. This is the fastest guy on the field, probably might be the fastest guy in the NFL outside of Tyreek Hill. And you just leave him one-on-one on the outside, especially because the play before that, Nelson Aguilar got behind the Jets secondary, and Derek Carr just overthrew him. So they had just seen it the play before, and they come back with that. So it does make me think, like, I don't think NFL coaches I don't think coaches care about tanking. I think front offices can care about tanking. But that was a very tank call right there, to not have a safety over the top in a situation with the time where they're going to have to throw the ball deep. My next thought on NFL Sunday, very impressive performance from the Cleveland Browns. I still do not believe in the Cleveland Browns. I still think they are paper champs. I still think they are overrated. That's by far their best win of the season. Mm-hmm. They had a negative point differential going into that game, 8-3 with a negative point differential. I still don't believe in the Cleveland Browns. I think that was the Titans got caught sleeping. They had come off a massive win over the Colts the week before where they blew out the Colts, and I think, were feeling themselves because that's the first time they've beaten the Colts in like a decade or whatever it's been, and caught them. So, but kudos to the Cleveland Browns. I still do not believe in them at all. And the New York Giants, that game, incredibly impressive from their defense. Their defense is. And there are two teams. We know the NFC East, the NFC least. The Cowboys, the Eagles, the Washington football team, and the Giants. Washington has a big win this afternoon with Pittsburgh, and then the Giants. Those two appear to have separated themselves to where it's like those two teams look like they are getting better as this has gone on. They're getting better as the season is going on. One of those two teams, it seems like, is going to make the playoffs. The Giants got a tough win at Seattle. Washington's going to try to get a tough win against the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. And then the other big one is Carson Wentz they took Carson Wentz out and they put Jalen Hurts in. This has been a disastrous season for Carson Wentz. And if you look at their salary cap situation and what he has guaranteed, the Eagles cannot cut him after this season. They're going to have him for another season going into next year.
Yeah, and I agree with you on all that. The Titans' loss was a gut-wrenching loss for me. It felt like it ripped out my heart. It was just the matter that they did not come out to play. They didn't come out to play absolutely at all. And you got to see a game where you're like, okay, we wanted to see Ryan Tannehill. Can the Titans get it done just off of his arm? And when they were not getting it done in the running game, it's kind of like, what do you have? And the defense didn't play up to par. And the Giants was probably the most shocking because you're playing a Seattle Seahawks team with Russell Wilson. They're kind of back into being Russell Wilson, but who would have thought we're talking about the Giants defense right now at all? And whether or not the Jets, did they tank or not tank, I have no idea. The Jets are just bad anyway.
The Jets are bad. That was some Jets stuff right there.
Right. It's a very Jets-like thing to happen at the end of the game. Like, we can't be too surprised.
One good thing for the Jets, I will say, shout out to former University of Memphis football player Arthur Millette. He did get an interception in that game for the Jets, so good on him.
Good on him. I don't know if he still wants to be on the Jets this week, but hey, NFL, being on an NFL roster, it's still a great accomplishment, and I cannot wait to see this Washington football team take on the Steelers. I got the Steelers. I don't think it'll be too close, but after Sunday, there's a lot of shocking things going on right now, whether it's the Patriots and the Chargers matchup. Like, my goodness. So this is the time for more games to be impressive and surprising. Something else that was impressive over the weekend, some college football news. I know you want to talk about Devontae Smith and Alabama. I mean, they did Alabama like that football when it comes to playing on LSU. Yeah. But what's your take on, especially when it comes to this Heisman race? Because a lot of more players are coming up there in the list.
Yeah, there's only, I think, 6 players now on most of these apps where you can bet legally in Tennessee. I think there are only 6 guys that you could bet on now. It's Kyle Trask is the favorite. Mac Jones is now even money. And then it's Trevor Lawrence is like 8-1, 9-1, 10-1, something like that. Ian Book, Devontae Smith, and Justin Fields. Devontae Smith has gone from 50-1 to 22-1 after that performance Saturday night. It's one thing when you play the 2:30 game on CBS. It's another thing when you're Saturday night and it's prime time and you got everybody watching. And that was a masterful performance. Devontae Smith is averaging almost 2. He's got 16 touchdowns in 9 games. So he's almost at average almost 2 touchdowns per game. He was on this Tyreek Hill over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns there in the first half. You knew it was going to be trouble when Nick Saban said before the game, because they beat us last year, they probably think that they can play well against Alabama, and that's something we're going to have to change their mind about. And you knew LSU was in trouble after that. Now, I will say the other talk is Ohio State, and that was a very big win. They were down 23 players, multiple coaches, including their head coach, Ryan Day, and they went out there and they put it on Michigan State. Like, it was just a bloodbath from the beginning. Ohio State passes the eye test. They passed the eye test. The thing is, I bet Michigan may try to cancel this game on the day of just to try to keep them out of the Big Ten title game. If that's the case, the Big Ten will change the rules for Ohio State. Ohio State passes the eye test. The only chance that people, if they don't want Ohio State in there, well, Florida's going to have to beat Alabama in the SEC title game, or Notre Dame will have to beat Clemson again in the ACC title game, because they're not going to want to the committee does not like taking 2-loss teams. And a 2-loss team, Florida, if they lose to Bama, they're 2 losses. They're not going to get in there. And Clemson, if they lose to Notre Dame, that's a 2-loss team. They're probably not getting in there too. So that would be your best case. If you want Ohio State out, you need Florida to beat Alabama, and then they would jump them, because the Florida win over Alabama is better than anything Ohio State's going to have.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see how this college football playoff committee kind of determines things. I don't think Ohio State, they don't have the strength of schedule, and I do not want the Big Ten to change the rule, because that's what you put out there, and we know that they've been strong on it. You can't change the rules just for one team. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. I want Ohio State to play Michigan, but even if they play Michigan, that doesn't really up their chances, because Ohio State, their schedule.
Michigan sucks. And Ohio State opened a 30-point favorite, which is probably the biggest spread ever in this series. Now, I'll say, look, this is on the Big Ten. I think they will change the rules. It's their fault. They should have started playing when all these other schools started playing earlier too, and that way you have time to change your schedule around. You have time to work in when games get canceled. You have time for makeup games. I don't agree with that, because they needed time to figure out COVID. COVID is still out there, and they had 9 months to figure it out.
The whole country, we've had how long? We haven't figured it out yet. Well, so no one can figure it out. But moving on quickly, we have a minute left. We got to talk about our last dance. The Memphis Grizzlies training camp has officially started. Super excited about that. Media day was throughout the weekend, and we got to hear from the players and Coach Jenkins, and got to hear from John Morant. And as Tyus Jones said, the players look good. They are in shape. The schedule is out. We got the first half of the schedule. What's the one game you're looking forward to the most?
Oh, I would say obviously Marc Gasol's return.
Obviously, yeah. Nothing else needs to be said. I'm looking forward to the most, not just the opener, but also the Brooklyn Nets game, because obviously it's going to be Kyrie versus Ja, but it's also the first road game and the first road trip. So to see how the Grizzlies adjust to this new times, and we know the NBA protocols, how that works out. I cannot wait to see how that kind of plays out in action. And like always, there's still so much going on in the sports world. You can hear more from John Roser on the Chris Vernon Show, or on me from the Rise and Grind Show daily, weekday mornings. And so we got a lot to go, and we'll be back Monday. Roser, thanks so much for watching 3 Point Stance, presented by Mountain Dew.